All right, good afternoon everybody. It's Paul Fileman from Transmentum here, joined by my colleague Adam Harris. This afternoon we're going to talk through some of the aspects that you need to go through in building and taking to market a powerful value proposition in order to differentiate yourself in the managed service marketplace. Before we start, a little bit about Transmentum. Transmentum started by three guys, of which I'm one. I've got a background in marketing and strategy in technology and service businesses, including Siemens Communications. Adam, do you want to introduce yourself? Sounds like Adam's on mute. Okay, I'll keep going. So Transmentum's role is we aim to increase customer acquisition and retention in managed service businesses and help them to build differentiation from their competition. Our focus is on sales, marketing, help desk and operations processes in fast-growing IT service businesses. We're a vendor-independent organisation. However, we're very proud to have been appointed the first CASEA Industry Expert Partners in Europe, first to be recognised by the CASEA Industry Expert Programme. So diving into the detail now, starting to talk more about building your proposition. The thing here is that most businesses are quite comfortable with taking tangible products to market, but struggle when it comes to building a proposition for a managed service. And the problem here is that managed services require a very clear and consistent proposition so that your prospects and customers can understand the true benefits that you take to them. And one of the things you need to think about here is, are you winning the customers from your key target list, or are you winning too few new customers? Or are you finding it hard to win the right kind of customer at the right price? The objectives here are to outline the steps you can take to build and then deploy a powerful value proposition that your managed services sales team can leverage to win more of the right kind of new customer in line with your business growth plans. What I'm hoping you'll understand by the end of the session is how to base your proposition on the challenges that your prospects are facing, how to build a proposition that your sales team can make work, and how to take your proposition to market in order that you can win more new customers at the right price. Now, there's some common traps that the businesses that we work with often fall into, and it's something that we spend a lot of time working with businesses to try and help them to overcome. The common traps really are that so many of your competitors give the job of describing the product or service to the person who understands that product or service best, and it's often a product specialist or an engineer. And we keep seeing very good quality, very expensive websites where the focus of the content is all about us and not about you, the you in this case being your prospective customer. There's far too much emphasis on jargon and not enough on what it means to your prospective client's business. And the value of the technology used is not explained clearly to the customer as a benefit. And on occasions we find that the offering is not proven to be better or different from any similar offering. And this could be because the words used are often assertions. They're not proven statements with supporting independently verifiable proof points, and we'll come on to some of the ways that you deal with that in a moment. So we'll talk about later on about the importance of case studies and the importance of proof points. To try and explain a little bit more about what I'm trying to mean, let's take a really, really simple example. Here's a valueless proposition. It says here that our Santinini pencils are manufactured in a range of pretty colours using cedarwood trees grown in a temperature-controlled, ecologically filtered climate. They have the finest grade South African graphite cores. So the issue here is that if you were the person trying to sell these pencils, your prospect's response may well be, so what? They won't necessarily know what a graphite core is or why it's important, and they won't know why it needs to be grown in a temperature-controlled, ecologically filtered climate. Whatever that is, it could sound expensive to them. A much more effective way of dealing with that is to talk about it in terms that customers can understand. So here we've got a more effective version of the same thing. Our Santonini pencils are manufactured in a range of easily identifiable colours. The main body of the pencil is made from the specially selected wood, which means that it is less likely to break. The carefully selected materials used in the graphite core, known as pencil lead, are guaranteed to last 15% longer than ordinary pencils. This unique combination of quality materials delivers to you a sturdy pencil that can easily be found in a bag or drawer and is less likely to break and will have a longer working life. So how's that changed things? Well, the so what, and this is often the way people will talk about what you're trying to offer them. So the so what is it's more reliable. What's a graphite core question? Well, it lasts longer, 15% longer. That's the why it's important. The climate bit's perhaps not relevant. Whatever it is, it sounds expensive to me. Now, as a client, if you were reading that as a piece of sales literature, you can consider the costs and weigh them in comparison to the expected life of the pencil to estimate costs over a given period. In other words, the end user for the pencil can make a value-based decision on whether or not to buy that pencil, in whether or not it's worth paying the extra for that pencil compared to an ordinary one. And using this simple example, it's possible to understand why it is when we're writing value propositions for managed services and for technologies, it's really easy to confuse people. Now, I understand Adam's now on audio. Adam, is there an example you've seen recently that perhaps explains this a bit better, a more practical example?
Hi, Paul. Yeah, I think managed print services is something that's changed. Used to be the case that it was kind of all the old photocopier guys that were the ones that were selling the proposition, but the managed print service is now something that's changed. The proposition has changed, the margins, etc. And this is proving to be quite a growth market for the right people.
Thanks very much, Adam. So what you now need to work on is, why is this important? And from a marketing perspective, we can identify the common and the most probable arguments in a given end market, and that's our starting point. And then from a sales perspective, we can use that starting point to define and articulate the value proposition from a specific customer view. And that means that we can build and develop sales arguments based on the client's needs and priorities. And we can therefore use the marketing work that we do to make salespeople more effective when they take products to market. So what is a value proposition? Well, put simply, instead of talking about your solution in terms of megabytes and transfer rates and throughput, it's making sure that you tell your prospects about your solution in a way that allows them to understand how their pain, their challenge, their problem, how that is solved by your solution. So the first thing you have to understand before you start talking on a one-to-one basis with a customer is, what is the problem, what is the pain? You need to ask them questions in order that you can find out all of the issues they're trying to solve, so that you can position your product or service against it. And you also need to understand if they've got any pains that you don't already know about when you rock up for the appointment, because the whole point here is to demonstrate that you understand what the problem is that they're trying to solve. And it's possible to generalize on those problems when we're talking about writing copy for websites and so on. And that way you're proving that your solution provides the best possible fit to the problem they're solving. And that way you're expressing the benefits of your solution so that they understand explicitly how their cost, the cost that they perceive, and that's the whole cost as they see it, including any disruption, any downtime, training, installation, maintenance, support, etc., are outweighed by the value as they see it, all the tangible and intangible benefits of choosing your solution. And each product or service or offering that you have in your portfolio should have its own value proposition. In simple terms, it needs to describe your proposition from the viewpoint of the client, and it should include a description of the problem, because there's no point in having a solution without a problem. The potential impact of the problem on your target client's business, the solution in terms of features, advantages and potential business benefits that your offering provides, and the value, what does this mean for your client business, the which means that, so that you can then go on to explain why you are different, and then to underpin that with the proof points, the ways in which you substantiate your argument. Because the issue here is that if a customer starts going out to the market, they're going to face a lot of choices when they're searching for a solution, and price, capability and quality are key considerations. And a clearly articulated value proposition helps the customer identify the relevant additional benefits the customer receives from your offering and why your proposition might be different. And it's the combination of the benefit and value delivered by the offering for the price charged. And the point of going through this work is that your value proposition drives and influences your key messages throughout your sales and marketing collateral. And it sets the messaging standards, so it sets the standards for the way in which your salespeople work one-to-one with customers. Perhaps to be a bit more practical about this, if we consider, let's go back to the managed print example that Adam talked about a second ago. The problems that people will have are around unstructured maintenance costs for printers, uncontrolled costs of toner, lack of service and so on elderly printers and that kind of thing, and an overall cost base for their printer estate that's considerably higher than it needs to be. So a value proposition for a managed print offering is going to go in and explain to them how they're going to save money and how the new printers that you're going to supply under a managed print contract are going to be both more reliable and cheaper to run and easier for them to maintain, because you're going to do all of the work. So let's now move on and think about the steps that you go through in building that value proposition. And the first step in building a value proposition is to understand who you're targeting with each proposition. So you make a simple list of the target customers, so that you can identify the challenges or business problems that may be faced by each of those target groups that you're working against. Because what you need to establish is exactly are the needs of the prospects, what are the business drivers, any potential compelling events that are driving the search or need for a product or solution. And you're going to need to also identify anything that is jargon that can be used in sales to identify an unmet need. So you make sure you have an explanation for any potential jargon or unmet need expressed in a business context. So let's just clarify a couple of those points a bit further. Talked there about a compelling event. And it's a very straightforward argument, and a compelling event occurs when the cost of doing nothing is greater than the cost of change. So in terms of either time, quality, cost or compliance. So it's the cost of not replacing that dying server with a cloud-based solution is considerably greater because of the disruption to the business than the cost of doing nothing. That's a compelling event. The server's about to die, you rocking over the horizon with a potential solution that takes away all of that pain for your client. That gives you the compelling event. An unmet need, it's something that the prospect would want if they fully understood what it was and what it could do for their business. Now the issue here is that a lot of the products and services described as the cloud and referred to by IT companies, if they're explained well, may well meet an unmet need. So for example, applications in the cloud are always on, which means you don't have to worry about hardware failure or availability. Data is automatically backed up, which means that you don't have to worry about disaster recovery. Access to the application is secure. You have complete administrative control over who has access to what and when, and that means you don't have to worry about data protection. The application may be accessible via a browser, which means there is no need to install and maintain software on the desktop. This means a lower cost of ownership and fast, easy deployment. So identifying these potential unmet needs and articulating these arguments using the which means that part of those sentences helps salespeople in their questioning and their approach. And these can often help salespeople identify the client's business requirement and may help differentiate your business through the quality of the way your sales guys go to market, your sales engagement, if you like. Now, step 2, once you identify who you're going to be targeting with this, list the common problems and challenges that they're facing and identify the ones that you can address, and apply the which means rule to identify the impact on the client business. And this helps you to develop your sales arguments, because if you address the issues and take away the impact, you've then improved the benefit to the client. Now, the which means rule is absolutely vital in this context, because when you see a statement and ask yourself the question, so what? So what does this mean for my business? Put yourself in the customer's shoes, and every time you describe a product or service, invoke the which means rule. This means that, this means, that means, this will. So, for example, going back to the pencil example, our pencils are made using superior graphite mined in South Africa, which means they will write more clearly and need sharpening less than ordinary pencils. And by taking that kind of approach, it's possible to overcome the so what arguments that clients will put back to you. So going on now to think about this in the managed service context, managed service propositions are very different from technology or software sales. Features can often relate to activities that you undertake on behalf of your client, and that complicates matters and makes it more difficult to reveal the value to the client. So we need the next few steps in this process to resolve this. So if we now look on to step 3, what we will do for the client, and this is about describing how we resolve the customer's issues, thinking about what the customer management life cycle is, and many of you will be using a formal process for that, and then thinking about what the tasks are in that life cycle. So those of you that apply the ITIL process will find that quite straightforward. Once you understand that, it's possible then to move on to think about how the service is delivered, so that you can then document the advantages of working with your process and your service, thinking about the people, the processes and the tools that are involved, and then start to describe why the solution that you're offering is better than perhaps an in-house solution, which is often what's being displaced by a managed service. Then thinking about step 5, think about why the solution is of value. So what are the business benefits that you're taking to the client? Think about the which means, what are the customer problems that are being solved, and then how you go on to differentiate your offer from your potential competitors, and understand, do you or do you not address the customer pain points? I don't know if Adam's got a practical example of that, sort of addressing the customer pain points in a managed service context. No, he's gone away. Sorry about that, folks. So moving on, we now need to think about differentiation in a lot more detail. In sales, there are 2 concepts that are often talked about. Unique selling points, where you identify that you have a clear business differentiator in the marketplace based on your comparison with your competitors. A unique business value, where your client identifies these differences as a priority in this given situation based on their requirements and their best and nearest alternative choices. So you need to think about asking yourselves or asking your sales guy, have you uncovered common customer problems that were not highlighted in your original analysis? because real differentiation only occurs in the eyes of the client. From a marketing perspective, helping salespeople to understand where their strengths lie helps them to refine and present the value proposition to maximize any unique business value. So it's important that you work this through and document it, because this is what's going to give your salespeople the edge over your competitors. Moving on now to step 7, you've gone through a number of steps here, and step 7 is about mapping the outputs of steps 2 to 6 back to the output of step 1, the customer challenges, to make sure that you've flushed out all of your target market's issues and that your value proposition works in that target market context, and then identifying your key differentiators. Now, I've talked a lot about features, advantages and business benefits. A lot of people get confused here. A feature is functionality, so it's the speed of a service. It's this backup will provide the following functionality. An advantage is what this might mean. So a remote backup service, remote means the advantage is that you've automatically got the backup removed from site, and it operates in such a way that people can't forget to change tapes and so on. The business benefit is how the client might understand the business impact. So if we take the example of a cloud backup service, I've forgotten where we've stolen this text from, but a cloud backup service utilizes bit mapping. That's a feature. Once an initial backup has been taken, only files that have changed will need to be transmitted to the backup storage device, which means it will take less time to back up your files. That's an advantage, giving you more productive use of your PC, a potential business benefit. This means that user or worker productivity is not affected. So identifying these arguments helps salespeople to take your value proposition and present it based on the specific needs and the priorities of the client. It's about being able to express the benefits you offer in business terms. So, for example, our product or solution reduces cost by delivering efficiency savings on your production line. Our solution increases production by reducing waste. Our product will increase sales by making your product look more attractive. So this is all about taking the opportunity to match your features to your customer problems or needs. Moving on now to proof points. You need to provide evidence to support your claims. This is absolutely crucial. You need to be able to substantiate what you're claiming. So our pencils are the best. That's an unsubstantiated fact. A more powerful argument would be, in a poll conducted by Mori, and you always add a convincing confirmation of your claim if you can, our pencils have been declared the best value for money by 50 universities across England and Wales. So you need to use facts. You need to be prepared to be challenged. Making a statement of fact around features, advantages and business benefits and around probable impact, which means that you're going to be challenged on that by prospects. So you need to be able to back them up with proof points, with market statistics, with surveys, and best of all, and absolutely essential in the managed service context, is customer case studies. And if your case studies also double as your client references, making sure you get your reference clients on message is the best possible proof point that you can provide, because that's what allows your potential customers to relate to their own businesses or to their own organizations and compare them, what they're doing, to the way they'll be working once your solution's in place. Now, the 8th and final step is to document all of this and to update your sales collateral and your website, and to use the material that you've generated through this process to get your website aligned with that, and you still need some of the technical content that you may already have there, but move that to one side and make the value proposition elements front and center of each of your portfolio components on the website and in your sales collateral. you need to train your salespeople and your service team so that when they're talking to customers, they talk in the context of the business benefits, and they present your services as solutions to problems, to pains, to challenges that your customers have got already. And then you need to test both your sales team and with customers, prove that your proposition works and prove that the people in your organization really understand, and then review and refine that. Now, I'm told that Adam's back on the line. Adam, are you there? No, he's definitely still gone away. So I was hoping Adam was going to give us...
Can you hear me, Paul?
Yeah. Adam, can you give us a practical example of when you've done this in one of the managed service businesses that you used to run?
What, the documentation level?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I mean, basically what we did, the onboarding process was something that we were aware we were having some issues with. So we stepped it out and asked some of our recent customers and the ones that we'd had success with, just to ensure that the experience was as good as it possibly could be, but also the levels of expectations from both sides. This meant that the relationship got off onto the right start. And then we were just fully engaged, and a lot of kind of the miscommunications and understandings. The line in the stand had kind of been defined very early, and it worked for all parties.
Thanks very much, Adam. That's brilliant. So what I'm hoping that you've got out of that short presentation is an 8-step process to defining and developing your own value proposition. For some of the products that you already work with, it's perhaps easier than for others because you might be able to get that from vendors. But for the managed service elements of your offer, if you go through this process for yourself and work it through properly and fully, you will find that it makes a difference both in the success rate but also in the kinds and values of the customers that you're actually winning. So with that, Winkim, have we got the ability to take questions?
Yes, we do. So any question can be popped either into the chat box or the Q&A box by the attendees.
Right, so are there any questions, folks? In that case, just flick this on one slide. If anybody wants to raise questions with us offline, there are our email addresses. Winkin, I understand you're going to post a recording of this webinar so that people have the ability to go through it at their own pace if they wish to.
Yes, exactly. I will do that. And there's actually one question from attendee. What would you advise next steps would be? Next
steps is to pick one proposition element, so perhaps start with something straightforward, and managed backup might be a good one to start with because it's a very simple part of the proposition for a managed service business, and run through steps 1 to 8 and build a value proposition in the way that we're suggesting, and then test that, and then move on to work on more complicated parts of your proposition and build the same thing for your full managed service offering and so on.